Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and today I want to show you how to make this glass teardrop bracelet with wire wrapping in between the teardrops. It's fastened with a little lobster clasp, and this one I chose to use two different colors of the glass teardrops. It looks complicated, but as you're going to see in this video, it's really quite easy to do, and you're going to love making these. The ingredients you're going to need is a lobster clasp, an 8mm open jump ring, a 4mm open jump ring, and two different colors of Czech glass teardrop beads. These are 8mm size. You can make them longer if you want. And then you're going to need 22 gauge craft wire and 26 gauge craft wire. If you want to use sterling or gold filled or anything like that, you can definitely do that as well. I chose just to use the craft wire though for this project. The tools you're going to need is a pair of looping pliers. You can see that there's a concave side and then a round nose part of this plier. If you have a round nose plier, that would do as well. We're going to be making wrapped wire loops with these. I just prefer the looping pliers. You're going to need a flat nose, chain nose plier, and you're going to need a flush cutter. So that is all you're going to need for this project. And to begin, what I want you to do is I want you to take your 22 gauge craft wire. And this is a bracelet, so we need it to be at least as long as our wrist is, and then some. So I'm going to eyeball this because you can always cut more off later. I'm going to cut about, 10 inches or so. Actually, this kind of kinked at that one end, and I don't really want that, so I'm going to cut off that one end so I have a little bit smoother wire to work with. I'm going to straighten out my wire with my fingers, and I'm going to take my looping plier and about an inch from one end, I'm just going to create a loop. And now I'm going to make a wrapped wire loop. What's really nice about the looping pliers is it holds it in place for you as you're doing this. There we go. I'm just going to cut off the excess now with my cutters. And now I'm just going to take my flat nose chain nose, and I am just going to push that rough wire edge in a little bit, just so I have no rough edge. Okay, so that is the start of our bracelet. Now there's a trick to this bracelet. When you often see wire wrapping, you are usually wrapping the beads onto a thicker wire using a thinner wire. And that is what this bracelet's going to look like, but we're going to do a little cheat here, and we are just going to actually thread the teardrop beads directly onto our 22 gauge wire. And I'm going to do this where I put every other bead as a different color. So I'm going to start with my teal, and then I'm going to put a blue, then another teal, and another blue, and I want to show you what this is going to look like. So when these get squished down towards the very end, you're going to see that you actually create nice rows by doing alternating beads. So I'm just going to now do that for what is going to be about 6.5 inches of length. I've strung all my beads, and I've gone ahead and I've checked to make sure that I didn't misstep and accidentally do two of the same color in a row. And I actually stopped at about 6 inches because I know my wrist is a little bit on the narrow side, and 6 inches came out to be about 20 beads on each side, so 20 of the teal and 20 of the blue. And you'll notice I started with a teal, so I wanted to stop with the blue. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold them like this because I want to make sure that's really nice and tight, because that's going to create our good structure to our bracelet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my looping pliers again, and right here, right where the bead is, and this is tight again, I'm going to put the tip of the edge of the looping pliers, and I am going to make a loop. And I'm going to wrap it again. I'm going to release my pliers, cut off my excess wire, and go ahead and push my rough edge in. All right, so we actually do have a very nice structure to our bracelet at this point. And if you wanted to, you could actually stop right now, but I want to make it look like I went to a lot more work than I actually did to create this bracelet, and I want to make it look like I wire wrapped it. So to do that, I'm going to take my 26 gauge craft wire, and I'm going to pull off of here, about 18-20 inches. You always want to have a little bit more than less, so I might even do like 22-24 inches. That's kind of the nice thing about craft wire when you're using it. It's pretty inexpensive, so you don't have to worry about putting an extra inch or two onto your length. Okay, I'm going to straighten out with my fingers my wire again, just try to get some of that curve out of there. And I'm going to start on one end, and I'm going to hold the craft wire up against my finger between the loop and my finger down at the base where I did my wrapping, and I am going to just make a couple quick tight wraps to secure my 26 gauge wire to my 22 gauge wire. About 3 should suffice. Okay, now you're going to love this part. This is how we're going to make it look like a lot more complicated of a bracelet. So my craft wire is sticking out from the back, so I'm actually behind a bead. And this first bead is pointed downward. I'm going to pull the wire into the crack between the 2 beads, into the crevice, and then I'm going to go and pull it under, so it's coming behind the teal bead, which is pointing upwards. I'm going to pull it around, and now I'm going to pull it back down the other crack. So you can tell what I've done is I've gone down and then backwards and up and this way again. And now I'm going to do that. I'm just going to pull this behind this bead, so I actually have like a little bit of almost a double wrap right there. But now I'm going to pull, instead of going back down through that crack I just went through, I'm going to go through the crack here. And now I'm going to pull it back down. I'm going to go behind the teal bead and back around the side of the blue teardrop. So basically you're just following the natural path of where the 2 beads are meeting each other. So again, down, pull it back, come back through the front and down again. Once you get the hang of it, you're going to be able to do this pretty quick. So we've got to the very end. So now it looks like in between all of our beads, it looks like they've been wrapped together. Now at the end, where we're meeting our wrapped wire loop, you can tell I just came out of the end here. I'm going to pull it back around, and I'm just going to go over my other loopings about 3 times to keep that secure. And now I'm just going to snip off the end, and I want to just tuck in that little rough edge. So we actually, now I want to go back, I forgot that I actually had this little rough edge. I'm just going to snip it off, make sure that's tucked in. All right, we've got our bracelet form. You can kind of try it on your wrist to make sure it fits. So that's going to be perfect for my clasp. Kind of shape it as wire so it bends, so kind of shape it in a circle shape. And now what we want to do is we want to attach the clasp. To start with, we are going to open a jump ring. This is our 8mm one, and now I did pull in, I know I didn't put these in the original part of the instruction, I did pull in a pair of Bentnose pliers. If you did just use a round nose plier, you can use them in place, or another pair of chain nose, whatever you normally use to open up a jump ring. I'm just going to put this one through the wrapped wire loop on one edge. Just close it back up. Same thing on the other side, but I'm going to use a 4mm jump ring so it's a little bit more discreet, and I'm going to go ahead and attach my clasp to it as well. Close it back up. So you now have a completed bracelet. So just go ahead, open the clasp, attach it to that large 8mm jump ring, and there you go. And you know what I think would actually be a lot of fun is if you're doing 2 different colors of beads, you actually get enough beads when you buy them from Beadaholique to make 2 bracelets. So if you buy 2 packs of the teardrop glass beads, you get 50 beads in each, which is going to give you 100 beads, which is going to be enough to make 2 bracelets. And I think it would actually be really fun to double these. So go ahead and make 2 bracelets, 3, even 4, and wear them all on your wrist at the same time. I think that'd be a really fun look. And there you go, and that's how you do it, whether you want to make 1, 2, 3, or 4 of these fun glass teardrop bracelets.